Is the worst of winter actually still ahead? Weather Update American Cities number 130. Imagine seeing snow flurries in Tampa Bay for the first time in 16 years. Picture 2,500 frozen iguanas literally dropping out of trees across South Florida because it is too cold for them to hold on. Now, think about a 78-year-old grandmother in Nashville who has been sitting in her dark, freezing house for 6 days straight with no heat. These aren't scenes from a movie. They are the reality of what just happened. And yet something even bigger is coming now. Orlando just crashed to 24 degrees, the coldest temperature recorded there in 90 years. Miami shattered a record that has been standing since 1909. It got so weird that the Air Force actually had to send a Hurricane Hunter aircraft into a winter storm because forecasters couldn't figure out what this monster was turning into. That should tell you everything you need to know about how broken our weather patterns are right now. This is not normal, and it is far from being over today. I am looking at the data for the next 14 days, and frankly, it is enough to keep anyone up at night. We have a confirmed stratospheric warming event happening right now, which is basically the atmosphere's way of saying the worst of winter might still be waiting in the wings. While some of you are finally seeing a bit of sun, don't get too comfortable. The patterns we are tracking for mid-February suggest that the freezer door is about to swing wide open again, and it could be brutal. Let's talk about Margaret. She is that 78-year-old grandmother in Nashville I mentioned. Her daughter shared that she's been rotating between neighbors' houses and sitting in her car with the heater on just to stay alive. She has lived in Tennessee her entire life and has never seen anything like this. This is America in 2024, yet we have seniors fighting for survival in their own living rooms. It is heartbreaking, and it is the reason why these weather forecasts actually matter today. The Nashville Electric Service is telling folks they might not get their lights back on until February 9th. That is a full 2 weeks in the dark during a deep freeze. Meanwhile, you have utility executives sitting in warm offices while families are literally freezing. There is a total lack of accountability here, and it's frustrating. But we have to look at the numbers to understand the scale. Winter Storm Gianna wasn't just a storm. It was a meteorological explosion that shocked the experts. This system started off the coast of Georgia and turned into a bomb cyclone in less than 24 hours. Its pressure dropped 25% faster than the actual definition of a bomb cyclone requires. That is the kind of rapid intensification we usually only see with major hurricanes, not winter storms at this latitude. It caught everyone off guard. Coastal North Carolina, a place that barely sees a flurry most years, got absolutely buried under mountains of truly historic snowfall. In Pelliter, they recorded 19.5 inches of snow. In Bath, they saw 17 inches, which is their first foot of snow since 1958. That is 66 years of waiting for a storm like this. Newport got 15 inches, and New Bern completely shattered its city record with over a foot of snow. From there, temperature records started falling like dominoes all the way from the Ohio Valley down to the Florida Keys. Records that stood for over a century were erased in just one single night. Columbus, Ohio hit -9, breaking a 22-year record. New York's Islip hit 0 degrees, and Chicago's wind chill crashed to a terrifying -36. Asheville saw -27 with 50-mile-per-hour gusts, while New Orleans felt a wind chill of -14. Even Atlanta had to warn people about wind chills as low as -10. This wasn't just a cold snap. It was a geographic takeover by Arctic air that reached places it had no business being today. The phenomena were truly bizarre. We saw Gulf effect snow reaching as far south as Sarasota and Fort Myers, places people moved to specifically to avoid shoveling. One wildlife group in South Florida had to collect 2,500 cold-stunned iguanas in just 2 days because the reptiles were literally raining from the sky. The storm even stretched into Canada, where Nova Scotia picked up 11 inches, and even Bermuda had to deal with gale warnings as the system roared past them. Now let's look at the city totals because they are staggering. New York City got buried under 22 to 30 inches depending on where you were. People in Ulster County are still digging out from 2.5 feet of snow. Boston saw 22 inches, their heaviest dump in 5 years. Pittsburgh got slammed with 23 inches of heavy, wet snow, and that lake effect machine just won't quit. Most of the I-90 corridor is currently a frozen mess, and the cleanup is taking many days. Philadelphia clocked in at 20 inches, Syracuse at 22, and Albany at 15. Even Baltimore and D.C. saw 10 inches of snow, with temperatures hovering in the mid-30s. In the Midwest, the Arctic air has basically moved in and signed a lease. Chicago had 14 inches of snow with that brutal wind chill, while Milwaukee and Minneapolis both saw a foot of the white stuff. Minneapolis is struggling with highs that barely reach the 20s and lows hitting the single digits now. Detroit, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati all saw around 8 inches, while Columbus hit 10. If your car battery actually started this morning, you probably owe it a thank you note. Cleveland is still dealing with non-stop lake-effect snow, and the entire Ohio Valley is essentially frozen solid. Even the heartland wasn't spared, with Kansas City, St. Louis, and Omaha all seeing significant accumulation. This pattern hit the middle of the country just as hard as the coast, leaving no one safe now. But here is what is really keeping me on edge. We have a confirmed stratospheric warming event entering its early phase. This isn't just a theory, it is happening. This usually triggers a polar vortex split and collapse, which means the freezer door that just hit us is about to swing wide open again in mid-February. Around February 8th through the 11th, we are tracking another potential extreme cold outbreak that could actually be worse than Gianna. This is the part to watch closely. Between February 12th and 15th, the European models are showing a high probability of 4 or more inches of snow across the interior Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. But there is a huge disagreement between the big weather models right now. The European model wants a classic coastal storm, while the GFS thinks it will cut through the heart of the country. When the models are this far apart, it means things are highly volatile. Small shifts now will mean massive differences later on today. Down south, the impact has been devastating. Charlotte tied an 1880 record with 11 inches of snow. Raleigh saw 4 inches, but coastal towns like Greenville and Kinston saw 15 inches. Gummix set a record with over 16 inches. The North Carolina mountains saw totals that you would normally only see in New England. Even Atlanta dealt with a messy rain and snow mix. The recovery in these areas is going to take a long time, especially with more potential winter weather on the way here. Nashville is still in a crisis with 6 inches of snow and a failing power grid. It is unacceptable that people could be without lights for 2 weeks. Memphis and Louisville also got hit hard, and the cold reached all the way to the Gulf. Oklahoma City was surprised by 12 inches of snow. While Florida is currently bouncing back with warmer tongue, don't let that fool you. That warm air surging north is actually just fuel for the next big collision when the next Arctic blast arrives soon now. When that warm, moist Gulf air hits the incoming freezing air around February 8th, it creates a massive conflict in the atmosphere. That is exactly how these monster storms are born. The same cities that were just digging out could find themselves right back in the crosshairs within 10 days. Texas is watching closely too. While Dallas and Houston are mild right now, everyone remembers 2021. The power grid is under a microscope, and experts aren't sure it can handle another major test soon. Over on the West Coast, things are much wetter. Seattle and Portland are looking at heavy rain rather than snow, which is a totally different world from the frozen East. California is staying mild but rainy, with San Francisco and LA in the 50s. The Mountain West is the only spot out west seeing real winter action, with Denver and Colorado Springs getting several inches of snow. But the real story remains the atmospheric setup in the east, which hasn't weakened or changed at all yet today. Safety is the priority right now. If you are still without power, find a warming center and never, ever run a generator indoors. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer that takes lives in every single one of these storms. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly. If you have to travel in the next 2 weeks, keep an emergency kit in your car with blankets and water. Also, keep your faucets dripping. Most pipes actually burst during the thaw, not the freeze, as the expanding ice shifts around. I have 3 bold predictions. First, Buffalo hits a wind chill of -35 by February 10th. Second, Philadelphia gets at least 6 inches of snow between February 12th and 15th. Third, Charlotte sees measurable snow again before February ends. This pattern is not done. Watch the brief warm-up this week, but don't trust it. The polar vortex is shifting, and the next 2 weeks could be wilder than the last. Stay warm, stay safe, and keep an eye on those neighbors tonight.